Ladies and gents, welcome back. It turns out the government is terrible at recommending technologies. Recently, I put out a poll both on Twitter and on the communities tab on YouTube asking everyone, what is a more pressing issue for you, the environment or the climate? It looks like, well, so far, the environment is more of an issue, but of course, lots and lots and lots of comments. I even got ratioed on Twitter with this one. And of course, I'm going to get into this more on the Friday night live stream. And I wanted to bring this one to the forefront. But the purpose of this today is actually what came out on Blacklock's reporter, and they tweeted out, Environment Canada says light bulbs endorsed by Cabinet and David Suzuki as good for climate change will now be banned within the year due to mercury poisoning and how bad they are for the actual environment. And there is a clear difference between the environment and the climate, and there's there's alarmism in both categories, and it's an interesting one to get into, the difference between environment and climate. And of course, again, the live stream on Friday at 9:30 Eastern time, we'll get into that more and more. But here we go from Blacklock's reporter, and I'm not going to show all the stuff that's behind the paywall, but green bulb will be banned. The compact fluorescent bulb, which was once touted by Cabinet as a climate-friendly energy saver, will be phased out within a year due to the mercury pollution that they caused. Environmentalists and regulators 20 years ago praised the bulbs as essential in addressing global warming. The status quo was not considered to be a viable option. And when we can go back to articles that they wrote back then, this is from Nova Scotia CBC News back in December 31st, 2013, saying incandescent bulbs the ban will start on January 1st. This is all that time ago. And they're saying older incandescent bulbs such as this one above throw more heat than energy efficient compact fluorescent bulbs. And of course, they're touting that medical thermometer contains about 100 times more mercury than a compact fluorescent bulb. Well, that's just not, we can't have that. We just can't have that. Now, if we look at a graph here, we'll see light emitting diodes, LEDs, as we know them, compared to incandescent bulbs, and then compact fluorescents. So the LEDs are obviously much more efficient with 6 to 8 watts per unit on average, but you can get, the really, really bright ones can go pretty high. They can go pretty high as opposed to a 60 watt bulb. And this is, I guess, they're trying to compare the same amount of lumens, so how much brightness you get from each bulb, 60 watts as opposed to 13 to 15 watts with a compact fluorescent. But if you scroll down here, they look at the environmental impact. So it contains toxic mercury. No, the LEDs and the incandescents don't. But yes, the compact fluorescents do. Mercury is very toxic to your health and to the environment. And we all know people's practices with disposal of anything is just, well, in the trash bin. If they won't take it in the blue bin, well, it goes in the trash bin. That's just how it goes. And but this is the main point that I'm getting at is that the government is terrible at recommending technologies, and well, they are recommending our means of transportation change drastically, radically in the next several years. And this coming from True North News, mandating electric vehicle sales projected to cost nearly $100 billion. And now in my poll, both on Twitter and on the YouTube community tab, the overwhelming majority of people were saying, why wasn't there a third option? Why didn't you give us the option of the economy? And I did that on purpose because I knew it would fill up. I knew that would propagate. Everybody would fill up the economy as their main concern. I wasn't asking for your main concern. I was just asking what was a bigger concern between the two, the environment or the climate. But of course, everyone chiming in, many people chiming in saying about the economy being their biggest issue. And well, this addresses that. The Trudeau government electric vehicle mandate will cost Canadian taxpayers nearly $100 billion to achieve, new federal estimates show. Now, this isn't including the cost to individuals. The individual will end up having to pay lots too on top of all of this, namely because, well, electric vehicles cost much more, and the price isn't going to come down when the government mandates it. The price would come down if the market dictates it, and that's kind of the way things go. If more manufacturers make electric cars, then they'll come down in price. But I mean, there's a ton of issues with this thing. As first reported by Blacklock reporter, the regulatory impact analysis statement found that a bulk of the spending will be for increased electricity usage and could lead to lower consumer choice. Wow. Isn't that just the fundamental impact of government in Canada? Anytime they step into something, it leads to less consumer choice and more expensive products. The proposed amendments are expected to lead us to a loss of consumer choice, as the non-zero emission vehicles, which are preferred by some, will eventually be phased out of the light-duty vehicle market, wrote Environment Canada. Furthermore, zero-emission vehicles are expected to generally cost more than non-zero-emission vehicles, and the vehicle price increase will lead to a reduction in the quantity of vehicles purchased. Electricity usage alone will cost $55 billion, while $24.5 billion could be spent by consumers on purchasing electric vehicles and charging stations. Meanwhile, the federal government would have to dish out $16 billion in subsidies to manufacturers and another $1.7 billion in subsidies to buyers. Wow! So they're going to be funding it on the production and the consumption side of this whole thing. This is just, oh God, like the worst government projects. This one takes the cake. Last month, Environment Minister Steven Guilbeault unveiled his government's plan to require all vehicles sold in Canada by the year 2035 to be electric or hybrid. I think this is a typo, a mistake, because you actually go to even their own article on True North talking about this. On Wednesday, Liberal Minister of Environment Steven Guilbeault unveiled the zero emissions vehicle sales target. Now, might have a little bit more purview to this. I work as an automotive mechanic. I'm licensed in Canada for that. There are no hybrid vehicles that are zero emissions. There are none. There are zero. It's actually going to be banning the use of the road engine, as we know, as gasoline or diesel engines will be banned effectively in 2035. Not just that. It's not just like around. It's down the road. It's more than 10 years away. No. Now this is the legislation will work by adding requirements to car manufacturers, importers to meet annual sales targets beginning with the year 2026, meaning 20% of vehicles must be electric coming from any manufacturer. So 20% of all vehicles sold that year will have to be electric. And then that jumps to 60% in 2030. 60% of all cars by 2030 will have to be electric, sold in Canada. And then 2035 will be all vehicles sold will be required to electric. All of them will have to be electric by 2035. So not electric or hybrid. They'll all have to be electric. And this is why I say, like, the government is terrible at picking technologies, because we don't know what other technologies may come about before that time. But if everything else is banned except electric, well, what else can we do? They all have to be electric. Now, we may run into situations like this incandescent bulb versus the fluorescent bulb versus the LED, or the LED came into play. I know they recommended the fluorescent bulb, but they didn't mandate that everyone use fluorescent bulbs. Thank goodness for that, because we would all have mercury-rich fluorescent bulbs in our houses. We would not even be allowed to have LEDs. Now, this is the kind of situation we're running into with auto manufacturers. Everything has to be electric. So all the technological development will have to go into electric, as opposed to maybe some other fuel source, maybe something else. We don't know. what could have come about it. But they wrote this law anyway. This getting into it, the estimated costs are just through the roof. The policy analysis statement also outlined another $680 million in spending on electric charging stations will be required, as well as $500 million worth of Canada infrastructure bank financing, just to keep the banks afloat during this time. This is crazy. The total estimate of $99.4 billion in cost does not include the maintenance and other costs like insurance, which is a racket here in British Columbia. They say we have no fault insurance. We just have no insurance. If you really look into it, and we delve into it on this channel here, we just really don't have insurance. Period. Anyway, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below for all these things that I included in today's talk. But it's incredible where the government is going with this, mandating technologies on us. We know how bad it is for the environment. This is all to do with the climate. How bad is it for the environment? Lithium mining on just such a grand scale, just to replace all of the automobiles that are already on the road. We also have been learning about cobalt mining. There was a guest on Joe Rogan recently that talked about the human impact, the environmental impact, all the different things that go into mining cobalt, which is absolutely necessary for the lithium batteries that you need for these electric cars. Now, the technology for electric cars has been growing. I'm a fan. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of electric cars. I think it's a more efficient way of doing things, but is not the only way to do things. And as people in the marketplace go towards electric cars for en masse, people have been doing it, especially out west here. So many people are voluntarily going into electric cars, and that's great. Mandating it is problematic, and it's a big issue. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about all these things. The environment versus climate, mandating technologies, and how there's all kinds of consequences that happen down the road that are unforeseen in the moment when you think that you're doing things. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. As always, we've heard this. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. And we'll be talking more about this on the live stream on Friday, and that's Friday at 9:30 Eastern time. Check that out. Make sure you hit that notification bell. If you get the time wrong, you can just hit that notification bell. Let you know when to join the live stream. We'll see you in the next one. Keep on trekking.